working out for the film. There was one where she's either serious or she's trolling everybody because she had her hair up sort of in like a hairnet during one of the Instagram videos, and she said that they couldn't reveal what Rey's hair looked like, so she had to have it up like that. And you wonder if she's just trolling the internet because she knows that people will go and speculate what her hair actually goes and looks like. Oh, side note, speaking of speculation, Rian Johnson, the director of Episode 8, put out on Instagram, it's just a photo of the letter R. It just says R next to some background. And so all these people are speculating. Does it mean that the movie's going to have an R rating? Maybe it has something to do with the title of the film. It's just so funny. Look, I did the same thing. Anyway, I'm looking at it right now. All right, so Daisy Ridley. Watch The Force Awakens again for the umpteenth time. And I was actually thinking about this going into the film, so I kind of had this thought running through my mind when I was watching it. And I heard somebody talking about The Empire Strikes Back and the emotional impact of The Empire Strikes Back. And I also had somebody that commented on a previous podcast that I did for my Nerd World called Anakin's Daddy Issues, where I talked about the fact that, Anakin Skywalker not having a father would have affected him in drastic ways and made him very, very susceptible to not just the Emperor, but also to love, the love of Padme, and what that must do to a person who didn't have a father figure in his life. And I had a really kind listener leave some comments about how much they enjoyed the podcast and liked my commentary on that. And that got me thinking about Rey. And it doesn't bother me because I've figured out a way to rationalize my way through it. But this issue is something that I hope is dealt with in Episode 8. I won't be disappointed if it's not, but I think it would be fun to go there. And that is Rey and her isolation. When we meet Rey on Jakku, she's in a pretty good place as a person. She's obviously got somewhat of a sense of humor, right? When she's, dealing with BB-8, when she's talking about her family coming back, she's a bit melancholy. When she's cleaning up that piece she took out of the Star Destroyer and looking at the old lady, and obviously that's supposed to evoke that she's thinking about what her life has become. But she's not a depressed individual by any stretch of the imagination. She's found and made a life for herself there. When she puts on that helmet, we were watching last night, when she puts on the Rebel helmet, my son Logan was with me, and J.J. Abrams actually alluded to this, but she puts it on and it gives her sort of this whimsical feeling. You almost see a slight smirk on her face when she puts the helmet on, just sort of as a way of entertaining herself. Now, that really got me thinking that's kind of a stretch. Here's a girl who was dropped off there at, age 5, right? Was it 5 or 9? I think it was 5. She's been there since she was 5 years old. Obviously left there, according to the Force back, with Unkar Plutt. We still don't know why, but she's been on her own since then, on a very savage, desolate, hot world. And yet, all this time, she's been able to find her way, defend herself. She's a strong character. She is in somewhat good spirits. She hasn't fallen apart. When Kylo Ren interrogates her using the Force, and he talks about how lonely she is, how she has trouble, at night, desperate to sleep. The moment when Maz Kanata says that the people she's waiting for are never coming back, you see that emotion there. But when we find her, she's, generally speaking, for the conditions that she's in a good place. Now, I don't find that a stretch when you add the Force into it. And this is my rationalization for it. What if the Force and her unknowingly, her without having knowledge, since I can't seem to say that word at the moment, with her not having knowledge of her connection to the Force and being able to bring it out, which she obviously does, and she brings it out rather quickly when she realizes she has access to it after being interrogated by Kylo Ren, when she tells the stormtrooper, right, you'll remove these and open up the door. Anyway. So I rationalize it by saying this is the Force working through her. It's the Force that's guiding her. I because I'm a religious individual and I believe in the Lord God Almighty, I like this implication, even though you'll never hear anybody go there in terms of commentary like they did when Star Wars came out. When Star Wars came out, there was a lot of talk of the comparisons between Christianity and other religions, but Christianity specifically, and the Force, and how the two related to one another and compared to one another. When I look at it in those terms, I kind of extrapolate that much like somebody's relationship with Jesus Christ is able to get them through difficult times, her lack of knowledge of the Force, but she still has a connection to the Force, and therefore it is helping her through this time on Jakku. Like the Force understands that she has a purpose and will have to go and do something later in her life, and obviously that's what The Force Awakens is all about, her setting off on an adventure. What I think would be really, really interesting to see in Episode 8 is if they go and they explore that. I always thought it was interesting the way they handled Finn and Rey. It almost got slightly romantic, and then she gave that very friend zone kiss at the end of the film when he was lying unconscious on that on the bed at the end after being sliced up by Kylo Ren. Right? She says, "We'll see each other again. I believe that," and she gives him a kiss on her forehead. Again, very friend zoney, even though there was a bit of that. The comment made by Finn, why do you want to go back to Jakku? You got a boyfriend, a cute boyfriend. And then when they embrace on Starkiller Base after they find each other and, leave now, hug later, this kind of thing that Han Solo said to them. So I really hope that they go and examine this in Episode 8. I think it would make a really interesting dynamic that perhaps her loneliness and isolation and not having parents there, whether Luke is her dad or not, ends up becoming that figure, but what that means for relationships. And I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, that I think there's a possibility that perhaps they go down that relationship emotional road, and when Rey is reunited with Finn, looking forward to seeing him, perhaps she's surprised to see that he's involved with another person. There's the other, Kelly Tran? I'm probably saying that wrong. It's the actress that's been hired for the movie for The Force Awakens that we know plays opposite of Finn in the film. And I think it's Kelly Marie Tran. I think I'm right with that. So perhaps she ends up going back to Finn and is surprised to see that maybe she had those emotions for Finn that she didn't realize that she had. Because also, I would have to think there needs to be some type of romantic thread, right? I don't expect Episode 8 to be a send-up of The Empire Strikes Back the way that The Force Awakens was to A New Hope. That being said, the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy all had this romantic thread involved. Now, maybe we just get that with Finn and this new character, but I think it would be really interesting to dive into Rey's isolation, lack of being involved in relationships, her being somewhat of a novice as it relates to dealing with that. While she may be strong in the ways of the Force and a powerful potential Jedi, perhaps her weakness is the fact that she doesn't have any experience in relationships, and maybe that leads to a temptation from the dark side and makes her susceptible to Snoke or Kylo Ren. I just think that would be interesting. I trust where Rian Johnson is going to go with it, but he is also the kind of director that could absolutely go and handle something like that. He could absolutely, based off of what I've seen him do, even in the slight romantic relationship in Looper that was there. Actually, there's a couple of circumstances in Looper where there's some romance going on. Not to mention in The Brothers Bloom, he handled that very well. So I do believe that Star Wars and the sequel trilogy is going to have to interject at some point some type of romantic element. And I think that it would be a missed opportunity with how likable Daisy Ridley and Rey is to not have it involve her in some way, shape, or form. So I know there's a whole group of Star Wars fans out there that have this fantasy about Kylo Ren and Rey, and I just don't know how you make that work. I don't know how you redeem Kylo Ren after he killed Han Solo to the point where you actually could see Rey being attracted to him based off of what he did, unless they use it as some kind of dark side thing. That would be a really tough pull in my view, because I don't think there's any redeeming of Kylo Ren. There was a really funny bit I heard once, basically laying out what would have happened if Luke had ended up saving Darth Vader at the end and took him alive off of the Death Star when it exploded, and Darth Vader ended up back at the celebration on Endor, and if he shows up, he's now redeemed himself because he saved his son and killed the Emperor. But how awkward would that be to have Darth Vader show up at this party after killing all the people that he did and the planet and everything? Like, hey, everybody, how's it going? Yeah, it's just me, Vader. Don't worry, I don't have my lightsaber today. It's all good. Sorry. Kind of a similar thing with Kylo Ren, right? Hey, here's my boyfriend. Oh, yeah, he killed my only father figure in life. Hey. Oh, yeah, Princess Leia, here's your son who killed your husband, who I'm now dating. Yeah, that just seems awkward and weird. I wonder if we'll get anything at Celebration for Episode 8. That would be pretty cool if we did. I know we're getting a trailer for Rogue One, however, and that alone has me really, really excited. Thanks for hanging out this week. I really appreciate it. Always appreciate you downloading the podcast as well. That wraps up episode number 56. We'll have a special guest next week for episode 57, which will be our Rogue One full trailer review. So be looking for that either Friday or Saturday. Again, subscribe on iTunes, search for The Jon Justice Show or My Nerd World. Follow me on Twitter, Jon, at Jon Justice, and you can always email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. So have yourself a fantastic week. Be kind and patient to one another. I love Star Wars, and I love the ability of Star Wars to take me out of all the nonsense that goes on in the world, and there is certainly a lot of it right now. And thank you, George Lucas, for creating this amazing galaxy of far, far away for us to go and enjoy, just to take our minds off the garbage that surrounds us in reality. So enjoy the rest of your week. We will talk to you again next week with our review of the Rogue One trailer. Until then, may the Force be with you always.